My name is Rowan Kincaid, 23 years old. I walked into the ballroom after 4 years of silence, and the music died like a bird hitting glass. Gold uplights warmed the banners that read, "Congratulations, Captain." And the room smelled like smoke on dress blues and hotel champagne. A woman I'd never met, diamond ring, practiced smile, cut across the dance floor and seized my arm so hard my fingers tingled. "Security," she hissed, dragging me toward the center of the room. "You can't keep stalking my husband." I didn't fight. I just looked past her at the man receiving the fire chief's handshake. My father. He turned at the commotion and laughed. Not a nervous stutter, head-tipped, throat-open laughter. "Honey," he said, amused, "that's my kid." Her hand fell away as if burned. "Your what?" "My eldest," he added, casual as a coat check. "Haven't seen them in a while." He didn't hug me. Didn't even step closer. He turned back to the chief as if I were some mislaid equipment finally accounted for. The DJ froze. Somewhere ice cracked in a glass. Phones angled toward us like little black eyes. I'd driven 8 hours rehearsing lines, trying to lace hope to reality. "I'm here because Mom said you're sober, because 2 years might be enough, because maybe we can meet in the middle." But watching him erase me in front of his brothers in uniform made the math easy. Veronica, because of course the woman had a Veronica face, cycled through shock into a darker current. "You told me you never wanted kids, she said, voice cutting, that you never had any." Dad's jaw tightened. For the first time, his gaze found mine. No warmth, just calculation. "We'll talk later," he told her. "No," she said, steel now. "We'll talk now. You erased your own child." "They left," he answered. "Their choice." Old air cracked in my lungs. "I left," I said evenly, "because you threw a bottle at Mom's head and it shattered against the wall. She needed 6 stitches. The fire chief took a step back. Conversations died mid-sentence. Dad's face colored. "That's not how I remember it." I pulled up a folder on my phone, the one I'd kept like a fire extinguisher I hoped never to use. Photos. Blood in Mom's hair, a crater in drywall, a police report I filed and withdrew because Mom begged me to. "I have 47 more," I said quietly. Different nights, different angles. He moved toward me, hands lifted, not threatening, pleading. "Don't show those. Not here. These are my brothers." "Your brothers," I echoed. "The men who call you hero." His hand twitched as if to snatch my phone. Veronica stepped between us, the same woman who'd just manhandled me, becoming a wall. "Don't touch them," she told him, voice shaking. "Don't you dare." The mask slipped. Rage flashed, then smoothed. "You don't understand," he told her. "Then explain," she said. "Explain how you forgot you had a child." "Maybe we should give you privacy," the chief muttered. "Stay," I said. "You should know who you're celebrating." For the first time, fear traced Dad's face. "What do you want?" I hadn't known until that second. I'd wanted reconciliation when I parked the car. Now I wanted oxygen. "Tell them the truth," I said. "Tell them why I left, why Mom left. Tell Veronica why you never mentioned me." The silence stretched taut. A radio crackled somewhere. A dish broke in the kitchen. The ballroom doors burst open. 2 uniformed officers entered, scanning. My mother came behind them, chin high. And next to her, taller than the last time I'd seen him in a photo I didn't know existed, a boy with my father's jaw and my mother's eyes. "Theo," Mom said, resting a hand on his shoulder. "Stand with me." The taller officer stepped forward, papers in hand. "Sir, you're under arrest for violating a restraining order. You were served 3 weeks ago. No contact with Patricia Kincaid or her minor son, no closer than 500 feet." "This is my retirement party," Dad said, voice cracking. "She got an invitation." "You sent it," the officer replied, then called her workplace twice, then parked outside her house. Veronica turned, stunned. "You said you didn't know where she lived." I don't," he stammered. Theo spoke for the first time, voice steady. "You sat outside for 3 hours last Tuesday. You left 6 cigarette butts on the curb. The neighbor's doorbell camera got your plates." Dad had claimed sobriety, claimed change, claimed redemption. The video the second officer held up said otherwise, his truck idling, a blue ember brightening and dimming under his face. "You're sober," I said, not a question. "I am," he insisted. 26 months. "Then why are you stalking us?" Veronica's voice had gone flat with betrayal. "Why didn't you tell me she left you? That there's a restraining order?" "No misunderstanding," Mom said, stepping into the space his lies had occupied for years. She looked older, thinner, but her spine had steel I didn't remember. He broke into our house 4 months ago with a gas can and said he'd burn it down if I didn't drop the divorce. The room erupted, firefighters talking over each other, someone swearing, someone else saying, not the captain, not him. Dad reached for gravitas, for charm, for the authority that had saved people from burning buildings, and also set ours ablaze. Let's calm down, he told the officers. You can't. He lunged, not at them, at me, for the phone. A dull muscle memory lit. The self-defense classes I'd taken in the years I disappeared. I pivoted, drove my elbow into his ribs, felt the air leave him. The phone clattered across the parquet. The officers had him in cuffs before his next breath. That's my kid, he shouted, thrashing, red-faced. They assaulted me. You saw it. I saw you, Veronica said quietly, tears cutting her makeup. I saw everything. They walked him out. The room parted like smoke, no one reaching to steady him. The fire chief looked sick. The doors swung closed behind Dad and the officers, and the ballroom became a vacuum. Mom approached slowly, as if I might bolt. This is Theo, she said, her hand still firm on the boy's shoulder. Your brother. Half-brother, Theo corrected, precise. My mouth worked around a century of questions. Mom filled the first. I was 3 months pregnant when you left, she said. I didn't know yet. I tried to find you when I finally got out, but you were gone. No number, no email, nothing. I had to disappear, I said, realizing how true and insufficient that sounded in equal measure. I know, she whispered. I know why. Veronica hovered, hollow-eyed. Those pictures, she asked me, barely a voice. How many? 47, I said, and some I never show. Can I see them? Her hands trembled. All of them. I looked to Mom. She nodded once. I handed over the phone. Veronica scrolled, paled, pressed her lips together. He told me his first wife was crazy, she said finally, staring at Mom. That she made up stories about drinking and rage. That she poisoned his kids against him. I got nothing in the divorce but debt, Mom said. He drained the accounts before I could file. Veronica swallowed. I'm pregnant, she said, palm flattening over a stomach that hadn't yet changed. 6 weeks. A chair scraped. The DJ's hand hovered above his console, unsure if music still existed. You need to leave him, Mom said, urgency breaking through gentleness. Today, don't go back to that house. Call a lawyer. File your own order. Protect that baby. I don't have anywhere to go, her voice broke. My family cut me off. I have a friend, Mom said, already pulling out her phone. She runs a shelter. She'll take you tonight. No questions. I haven't been abused, Veronica whispered, as if saying it softer could make it untrue. Not yet, I said. He grabbed me before he knew who I was. You saw the switch in his face. The fire chief came close enough to share the shame on his features. I've known your father 15 years, he told me, voice small. He saved my life in a burnover. Okay, I said, matching his quiet. He's complicated. He beat my mother, I said. He terrorized me for 19 years. He threatened to burn their house down with them inside. Is that complicated too? He flinched. No, that's evil. Then stop making excuses for him. He nodded, backed away into the wreckage of a party that would never finish. The officers reappeared at the doorway. He'll make bail, one of them warned, apology baked into the tone. He always has friends. You should all leave the city before he's processed out. Where? Veronica asked, panic rising like smoke. Somewhere he can't find us, Mom said. She glanced at me. Do you have a place? Small, I said. Far. He doesn't know the state, let alone the address. Theo studied me with wary intelligence. You're a stranger. You're right, I said, but we have 6 hours in a car to change that, unless you'd rather wait here for him to come back. He didn't answer. He didn't have to. We all heard the clock start ticking again. Let's go, Mom said, not pleading now. Commanding, the way you have to be when the house is already on fire. We walked out together, me, my mother, my brother, the woman carrying my father's next child, through a ballroom full of men who put out flames for a living and never smelled the smoke inside our home. The night air outside the ballroom tasted like metal and rain. The flashing red and blue of the patrol cars painted the parking lot in pulses, making every shadow twitch. Mom kept her hand on Theo's shoulder, as if he might blow away. Veronica walked a few steps behind us, her makeup streaked, one hand still over her stomach like she was trying to protect the child that hadn't yet begun to show. None of us spoke until we reached my SUV. You sure it's okay if we come with you? Mom asked, her voice breaking somewhere between hope and shame. It's safer than staying here, I said. He'll be out by morning. Veronica looked up sharply. How can you be sure? Because I know him, Mom said before I could. He's got friends, judges, union reps, People who owe him favors. He always finds a way out. Theo folded his arms, trying to look older than 16. Then we should hurry. The drive started in silence. The city lights blurred on wet asphalt, the windshield wipers keeping time with the thoughts none of us said out loud. Mom sat up front, watching the mirrors like we were being followed. Theo slouched in the back seat beside Veronica, who stared out her window with that hollow look of someone watching her old life collapse in real time. Half an hour into the drive, Mom spoke. I should have left years ago, before you ever had to see any of it. You left when you could, I said. That's enough. It's not, she said softly, but maybe it can be now. Veronica finally turned from the window. He told me you disappeared, she said to me, that you ran away without a word and left him broken. I gave a humorless laugh. I ran, yes, but not because I wanted to hurt him, because I wanted to survive him. She hesitated. Did he really? Was it as bad as those pictures? Worse, Mom said flatly. Those were the nights someone else was there to take photos. Veronica pressed a trembling hand to her mouth. Oh my God. I glanced in the mirror. Theo was staring at me, his expression unreadable. Why didn't you ever come back? He asked. I met his eyes through the reflection, because I thought if I stayed gone, he'd stop hurting everyone else. I was wrong. The rain eased as we crossed the bridge out of town. The city lights fell away behind us, replaced by long stretches of dark highway. Where are we going? Theo asked. My apartment, I said. It's small but safe. He leaned his head against the window. How far? 6 hours, he sighed. Then I guess we've got time. By the time we pulled into the city where I lived, it was nearly dawn. The clouds were heavy and pale, the kind of morning that looked like the world hadn't decided whether it wanted to wake up. My building was old, 3 stories, half the mailboxes broken. Not the kind of place anyone would associate with a firefighter's family. Perfect. I parked in the back lot, killed the engine. This is it, I said. Home sweet home. Veronica gave a small, stunned laugh. It's cozy. It's tiny, Theo corrected. It's safe, Mom said. That's what matters. We climbed the stairs in weary silence. Inside, the apartment was exactly as I'd left it. The faint smell of coffee, stacks of books, a single lamp burning low. You can take the bedroom, I said to Mom. Theo can crash in there too. Veronica, there's an air mattress in the closet. I'll take the couch. I can't ask you to give up your bed, Mom protested. You're not asking, I said. I'm offering. We moved in quiet choreography, unfolding sheets, plugging in the air pump, finding spare blankets. It felt like setting up camp in a storm shelter. When everything was finally settled, Veronica sank onto the mattress and looked up at me. Thank you, she said, for this, for letting me come. You don't even know me. You're carrying his child, I said. That makes you family, whether we like it or not. Do you? She asked quietly. Like it? I don't know yet, I admitted, but I'm willing to try. She nodded, eyes shining. That's more than I deserve. No, I said. You deserve to be safe. You deserve peace. You deserve a life that isn't built on fear. She looked down, tears slipping free. Everyone warned me about him. My parents, my friends. They said he was too intense, too controlling. I thought they were jealous. I thought they didn't understand what we had. That's how he works, Mom said from the doorway. He makes you believe you're special until you're trapped. Veronica nodded. He told me you were bitter, that you turned the kids against him. I tried to protect them, Mom said. That's all I ever tried to do. And you, Veronica said to me. Why didn't you tell someone? The police? Anyone? I did, I said. More than once. But it doesn't stick when the abuser's a decorated hero with friends in uniform. Veronica's eyes widened. He really had that much power? He saved lives, Mom said. People don't want to believe their hero could also be a monster. We all fell silent. The only sound was the low hum of the air mattress and the rain returning against the window. Theo broke it. What happens now? Mom looked at me. We rest. We breathe. Then we figure it out. The rest lasted about 2 hours. My phone rang, shrill and too loud in the quiet apartment. I didn't recognize the number, but my gut already knew. I answered anyway. You think you're safe? Dad's voice slurred through the line. You think you can hide from me? I hung up before he could say more. My hands were shaking. Who was it? Mom asked, appearing in the doorway. Him. She paled. Already? Already. I blocked the number, then turned my phone face down on the counter. We'll file new reports in the morning. Restraining orders, everything. Tonight we just stay quiet. Mom nodded, though her eyes stayed on the window. He's not going to stop. Then neither will we, I said. By midnight, the rain had stopped. The city was silent, except for the occasional hiss of tires on wet pavement. I lay awake on the couch, listening to the creaks of the old building. Every sound made my pulse jump. In the bedroom, I could hear Theo's restless tossing. Veronica whispered into the dark, maybe a prayer, maybe an apology. Mom's voice drifted out soft and firm. "It's going to be okay," she said. "We've survived worse." Maybe she believed it. I wanted to. But lying there, watching shadows move across the ceiling, I realized something I hadn't before. We weren't just running from him anymore. We were running from the part of ourselves that still thought we owed him forgiveness. The morning came gray and heavy, the kind of light that didn't feel like morning at all, more like the pause between nightmares. My apartment smelled of stale coffee and rain-soaked shoes. None of us had really slept. Mom's eyes were swollen. Theo's hair stuck up in uneven tufts, and Veronica looked like she'd aged a decade overnight. We sat around my small kitchen table, half awake, half alive. "He called me too," Mom said, voice low. 4 times. I didn't answer, but he left voicemails. "What did he say?" I asked. She pressed her lips together, eyes darting toward Theo, who was pushing a spoon through a bowl of cereal he wasn't eating. "That he misses us, that he wants to talk, that he knows where we are." The spoon clattered against the bowl. "He's bluffing," I said quickly. "He doesn't know my address. I've been careful." Mom didn't look convinced. "He always finds a way. He's resourceful." Theo leaned back in his chair, arms crossed. "Then what are we supposed to do? Keep running?" "That's not running," Mom said. "That's surviving." Veronica's phone buzzed. She flinched. When she checked the screen, she turned it face down without a word. "Him?" I asked. She nodded. 32 missed calls since last night. 6 voicemails. All the same. Begging, threatening, begging again. It's like he's 2 people. "That's because he is," I said. "And the one doing the begging is just the mask." Theo rubbed his forehead. "I hate him." Mom exhaled. "Hate won't help. We need a plan." I opened my laptop, pulling up tabs faster than I could read them. Legal aid clinics, domestic violence resources, restraining order forms. The screen's glow made my hands look ghostly. First, we document everything. The calls, the messages, everything. Then we file for protection. If he violates it again, it's on record. Veronica hesitated. "I don't want to drag this out. I just want to disappear." "You can't disappear if you're pregnant," Mom said gently. "You need prenatal care, paperwork, records. He'll use that to track you if you're not careful." Veronica blinked rapidly. "So what? I live like a fugitive until he forgets about me?" "Yes," I said bluntly, "if that's what it takes." The silence stretched. Outside, a siren wailed faintly, fading as it passed. Theo was the one to break it. "Can I ask something?" "Of course," Mom said. "Why did you stay?" His voice wasn't angry, just bewildered. "If he was this bad, why didn't you leave sooner?" Mom's shoulders dropped. "Because I thought I could fix him. Because he wasn't always this bad. Because when he apologized, I wanted to believe him. And because I didn't have anywhere else to go." Theo stared down at the table. "You always had me." Tears glimmered in her eyes. "I know that now." Veronica's voice broke the moment. "I said the same things to myself, that I could fix him, that I just had to be patient. That love would win eventually." She laughed bitterly. "It's strange how love starts to sound like an excuse." "It's not love," I said. "It's survival instinct pretending to be loyalty." We sat there, 4 survivors orbiting the same ghost. By afternoon, we had a plan. Mom's friend at the shelter agreed to meet us later that day. We'd file the paperwork together. Veronica would see a doctor through their program, and Theo could enroll in remote classes to stay under the radar. It was fragile, but it was a start. For the first time since the party, I felt a thread of relief. I even managed to laugh when Theo asked if my couch came with a warranty because I think I'm permanently fused to it now. But safety never lasted long with him. Around 6 p.m., someone knocked on the door, hard, insistent. "Don't answer it," Veronica whispered immediately. I peeked through the peephole. 2 men stood in the hall, both wearing construction jackets and baseball caps pulled low. One held a clipboard. My stomach dropped. "Can I help you?" I called through the door. "Delivery," the taller one said. "Looking for Patricia Kincaid." "Wrong address." He checked his clipboard. "We were told she's staying here with her daughter. Need a signature." Mom's face drained of color. "He sent them?" "Listen, lady," the man said, pounding the door once. "We just want to drop the package and go. Make it easy." "Leave it there," I said, backing away. "Can't do that. Needs a signature." Veronica's hands shook as she pulled out her phone. "Call 911. I was already dialing. The dispatcher's voice was steady, calm. I gave the address, whispered that 2 men were trying to force entry. They're pounding harder, I said into the phone. Stay quiet, the dispatcher instructed. Units are on the way. Outside, the men cursed. One kicked the door hard enough that the frame shuddered. Open up, he yelled. Police are already coming, I shouted back. Expletive, the police, he snarled. We're just doing our job. The words froze the air. Their job. Dad's job. We heard footsteps retreating, then the quick thud of boots descending the stairs. Within minutes, real sirens cut through the night. When the officers arrived, the hallway was empty. The only trace of the men was a deep shoe print in the dust near the door. They're gone, one officer said after a sweep. You need to leave, tonight. Leave? Mom asked. Go where? Anywhere but here, he said. He's escalating. An hour later, everything we owned fit into 2 duffel bags and a box of important papers. The air outside was cold enough to bite. Mom and Theo would go to the shelter. Veronica and I would head 2 towns over to a motel. As we loaded the SUV, Veronica stopped, glancing up at the building. I spent years decorating our house, she murmured. Now I can't even hang a photo frame without looking over my shoulder. You're not running, Mom told her softly. You're escaping. We drove away with the police lights still flashing behind us, the city shrinking in the rearview mirror. For a while, no one spoke. The road stretched ahead, dark and uncertain, but it was ours. Veronica exhaled shakily. You really think he'll find us again? I stared straight ahead, hands tight on the wheel. I think he's already looking. And somewhere behind us, in a house full of memories and lies, a phone buzzed to life. The motel was the kind of place that existed on the edge of maps. One blinking neon sign, vacancy, half lit, buzzing like an insect. The owner was an older woman who handed me a key with no questions, just a sympathetic glance that said she'd seen too many women arrive at her door with haunted eyes and no luggage. Veronica and I carried our bags inside. The room smelled faintly of bleach and cigarette smoke, the wallpaper peeling at the corners. But it was quiet. For the first time in days, quiet felt like a gift. She collapsed on the bed with a sigh that came from somewhere deeper than exhaustion. We can't keep doing this, she whispered. Running, hiding, pretending we're ghosts. We're not ghosts, I said. We're survivors. She gave a hollow laugh. Is there a difference? I didn't answer. Instead, I opened my laptop, checking for any messages from Mom. She'd promised to text as soon as she and Theo were settled at the shelter. Nothing yet. I tried not to panic. An hour passed. The hum of the air conditioner filled the silence. Veronica sat at the small desk, writing something in a notebook. I glanced over, a list of baby names, half crossed out. You're really doing this, I said quietly. What choice do I have? She said without looking up. It's not the baby's fault. They didn't ask for any of this. Her hand trembled slightly as she wrote. You'll be a good mother, I said. She let out a shaky breath. You don't know that. I know what kind of man you're running from, and I know you're still standing. That's enough. Veronica's eyes filled. I used to believe he was my second chance, that after everything bad in my life, he was proof the universe hadn't given up on me. He'd make me coffee in the mornings, leave little notes on the mirror. Her voice cracked. It felt real. That's how he traps you, I said. He gives you everything you ever wanted, just long enough to make you forget who you were before him. She nodded, wiping her eyes. I wish I'd met you sooner. Me too. The next morning, my phone buzzed at 6:47 a.m. A message from Mom. We're safe. Shelter is secure. Theo's with me. Don't worry. Love you. I exhaled a breath I didn't realize I'd been holding. I typed back a quick reply, then turned to Veronica, who was still half asleep. They made it, I said. She smiled faintly, the kind of small, tired smile that still managed to be beautiful. Good. I made coffee from the old drip pot on the counter. The smell filled the room. For the first time in weeks, I let myself think maybe, just maybe, we were starting to turn a corner. But then my phone buzzed again. A picture. I froze. It was my apartment building. The photo taken from the street, time-stamped 1 hour ago. Another photo followed. The motel parking lot. My SUV clearly visible. Veronica noticed the color drain from my face. What is it? I turned the screen toward her. Her hand flew to her mouth. How could he? He's tracking us, I said. My pulse was pounding in my ears. He must have put something on the car. We tore outside. The gravel crunched under our shoes as I crouched by the rear bumper, feeling underneath until my fingers brushed cold metal, a small black device magnetized to the frame. There, I said. I yanked it free and held it up. A GPS tracker. Cheap, efficient, perfect for a man like him. Veronica's face went white. He's been watching us the whole time. My hands shook as I dropped the device to the ground and crushed it beneath my boot. The plastic snapped. The tiny red light blinked once, then died. "We need to call Mom," I said. When she picked up, her voice was already tight with worry. "He tagged the car," I said. "That's how he found us." "I knew it," she whispered. "When he came to the house before, I felt him lingering too long by the garage. I should have checked." "It's not your fault. We're getting rid of it. I'll ditch it somewhere." "No," Mom said firmly. "Sell it. Get cash. Use it for new transportation. And you two need to go even farther. Separate towns if you have to." I glanced at Veronica. She was staring at the floor, hands clasped over her stomach like she was praying. "I'm not leaving her," I said. Mom paused. "Then be careful. He's escalating. This is what happens before the violence starts again." "Before?" I echoed. "It's already started." We sold the SUV to a junkyard that afternoon, no questions asked. The money wasn't much, but it was enough for bus tickets. Mom and Theo headed west, toward Oregon. Veronica and I went north, to a small mountain town I'd only picked because it was the first name on a map I didn't associate with pain. The bus ride felt endless. Miles of silence between us, punctuated by the hiss of brakes and the occasional announcement. Every rest stop felt like a potential ambush. Every stranger's glance made my skin prickle. When we finally arrived, the air smelled like pine and rain. The town was small. One main street, a diner, a grocery store, a single traffic light. We checked into a local bed and breakfast. The owner was kind, no forms, just cash. "You girls running from something?" she asked with a knowing smile. "Someone," I corrected. "Been there," she said simply. "You're safe here." The days settled into a fragile rhythm. Veronica got a job waitressing at the diner. I found work at the hardware store. We saved what we could, checked in with Mom every evening. 3 weeks passed. "He hasn't found us yet," Mom said on the phone one night. Maybe he finally gave up. I wanted to believe her. But the next day, Theo didn't show up for his online classes. His phone went straight to voicemail. His backpack and charger were gone. Mom's voice cracked when she called. "He's gone. There's a note." My heart stopped. What does it say? "He went to see his father. Said Dad promised to leave us alone if Theo came back." "No," I whispered. "That's a trap." "I know," Mom said, sobbing. "But he's just a kid. He believes him." The world tilted. "I'm coming back," I said. "You can't," she pleaded. "He's expecting that." "I don't care," I said. "We're getting him out." Veronica grabbed my arm as I ended the call. "You're not going alone." I met her eyes. For the first time, she didn't look afraid. She looked ready. "Then pack your things," I said. "We leave now." We both knew the truth. If we didn't go back for him, Dad would make sure there was nothing left to save. The road home felt like a relapse. Every mile closer, my chest tightened. Every exit sign, another bruise pressed too hard. Veronica sat beside me, both hands on her stomach, silent except for the quiet rasp of her breathing. The sky was a sheet of steel. We met Mom at a rest stop 20 minutes outside the city limits. She looked wrecked, hair unwashed, eyes red, still wearing the same sweatshirt she'd probably slept in. The moment she saw me, she broke. "I told him not to go," she said, clutching my arm. "He said it was the only way to make it stop, that if he talked to his father, the fighting would end." "It's not his fault," I said. "Dad's been manipulating people his whole life." Mom's voice dropped. "He texted me an address, said to come alone. Said if anyone else showed up, he'd call the cops and say I was harassing him." "Let me guess," I said. "Middle of nowhere?" Mom nodded. "A house outside town. Bought it last month. Paid cash." Of course he had. We drove in a slow convoy. Mom's beat-up sedan ahead, Veronica and me behind. The city faded into industrial warehouses, then farmland, then nothing. Finally, gravel crackled under our tires as we turned down a narrow road lined with pine. At the end sat a 2-story farmhouse with no neighbors in sight, the kind of house people vanish into. "Police?" Veronica asked. "If we call, he'll know," Mom said. "He's expecting me." "Then he's expecting an ambush," I said. Mom's jaw tightened. "I'll go in first. If I'm not out in 10 minutes... "No," I interrupted. "I'm not letting you walk in there alone." Mom looked at me, something between pride and fear in her eyes. "Then stay close, but don't interfere. Theo comes first." The house was quiet when we pulled up. The front porch light flickered weakly, the bulb almost dead. I could feel him in there, the same way a deer feels a hunter in the woods. Mom knocked once. The door creaked open under her hand. "Daniel?" she called softly. "It's me." No answer. Then from upstairs, "Up here." Theo's voice, small, tired. Mom exhaled, started up the stairs. I followed 2 steps behind, my pulse hammering. At the top landing, Theo stood in the hallway. His face was pale, eyes hollow. Behind him, emerging from the shadows, was Dad. "Right here," he said, resting a hand on Theo's shoulder. "See? No reason to panic." "Let him go," Mom said. "He's not a prisoner," Dad said smoothly. "He came here on his own." Theo's eyes flicked toward me. They were screaming even if his mouth stayed shut. "What do you want, Dad?" I asked. He smiled. "I want my family back. I want my name cleared. I want my wife to stop filing restraining orders, and my children to stop spreading lies." "They're not lies," I said. "There are two sides to every story." He squeezed Theo's shoulder, just enough to make him wince. "You threw Mom down the stairs," I said. "I barely touched her. She slipped. It was an accident." "You threatened to burn her house down." "I was upset," he snapped. "People say things they don't mean." "You stalked Veronica." "She's my wife," he said, almost shouting. "I had every right to check on her." "She has a restraining order." "That's a misunderstanding." The way he said it, the same tone, the same calm, practiced cadence, made something inside me snap. Every word you say is a misunderstanding, isn't it? Every bruise, every scar, every nightmare, just one big misunderstanding. "You always were dramatic," he said, "just like your mother." Mom stepped forward, trembling but steady. "Let him go, Daniel." "He's my son," Dad said. "He's not your hostage." "He's fine," Dad said, but his voice had gone cold. "Then prove it," I said. "Let go of him." "He didn't." Theo swallowed hard. "Dad, please." "Quiet," Dad said, tightening his grip. That's when I saw it, the faint bulge under his jacket. A gun. My throat went dry. "You're right," I said carefully. "Theo wants to stay. That's his choice. We'll go." I turned slowly, one step toward the door. "Wait," Theo said suddenly. His voice cracked. "Don't go." Dad's eyes narrowed. "Son?" Theo shook his head. "You promised you'd leave Mom alone if I came back. You said that was the deal." "I meant it." "He's lying," I said. "He's never going to stop, not unless we make him." "How?" Theo asked. "We expose him," I said quietly. "Completely. No more secrets." Dad laughed, a dry, humorless sound. "You think anyone will believe you? I'm a hero in this town. You're just the angry daughter who ran away." "Maybe," I said, pulling my phone from my pocket, the recording already running. "But I've got 47 photos, 3 police reports, and this conversation." He froze. "You're bluffing." "Try me." The air in the hallway went still. Theo's chest rose and fell in quick, shallow breaths. Dad's hand trembled. Then headlights flashed through the upstairs window, blue and red. Sirens growing louder. He turned to me, fury blooming on his face. "You called them." "I didn't," I said, "but I'm glad someone did." "This is your fault," he snarled. "All of it. If you just stayed away." "Your happiness came at everyone else's expense." "Everyone's happiness comes at someone's expense," he shouted, voice cracking. "That's life." "No," I said, "that's abuse." The front door burst open below, shouted commands, footsteps on the stairs. Dad's hand twitched toward his gun. "Don't," I said, "please, don't make this worse." For a moment, I saw the man he used to be, tired, defeated, terrified of losing the only control he'd ever known. Then the mask shattered. He dropped the gun and raised his hands as the officers swarmed the landing. They pulled him away, cuffed and shaking with fury. Theo collapsed the moment their hands were on him. I caught him before he hit the floor. "It's over," I whispered, even though I didn't believe it yet. Outside, the flashing lights painted the night in color, red for danger, blue for mercy, white for the truth we'd finally forced into daylight. Mom came up behind us, her face streaked with tears. "Is he hurt?" "No," I said, "just scared." Theo's voice was barely audible against my shoulder. I thought if I came, he'd stop. "He will now," I said, holding him tighter. "He has to." But deep down, I knew better. Men like him don't stop. They just wait for the next opportunity. The trial started 3 months later, but for us, it began the night he was taken away in cuffs. For weeks, every knock at the door made us flinch. Every phone vibration sent my heart to my throat. The quiet after violence isn't peace. It's a waiting room. Mom, Theo, Veronica, and I sat together in the courthouse hallway on the first day, surrounded by the low murmur of other lives in free fall. Theo had cut his hair short, almost military neat, as if shedding the last traces of the boy who once waited for his father's approval. Veronica's stomach had begun to round beneath her sweater. She rubbed it unconsciously, a silent promise that this child would know something different. Mom wore navy blue, the same color she'd worn the day she filed her first restraining order. "Full circle," she said quietly. When they called our case, the air shifted. The courtroom was packed. Cameras outside had drawn attention. The local hero fallen from grace was news gold. Dad sat at the defense table, suit pressed, hair trimmed, hands folded neatly. He looked thinner, older, but still performing, still pretending control. When his eyes found mine, he smiled. A calm, eerie smile that said, "I'm still in your head." He wasn't wrong, but he didn't own the space anymore. The prosecution went first. They showed the photos, the reports, the hospital records, played recordings of his voicemails, each one a blueprint of obsession. Then they played the clip I'd captured at his house, his voice admitting to everything he'd once called misunderstandings. When the recording ended, the silence was so deep it felt alive. The defense tried their angle: PTSD from years of firefighting, stress-induced alcoholism, a good man undone by trauma. The same tired symphony of excuses. Dad even cried on cue. When they called me to the stand, I felt my stomach twist, but my hands were steady. I told them everything. The party, the photos, the nights hiding under beds, the broken glass, the police who looked away. And then I told them something I'd never said out loud before. He didn't just hurt us physically. He made us believe he was our gravity, that if we left, we'd spin off into nothing. Mom cried quietly behind me. Theo stared at the floor. The defense attorney asked if I hated my father. "I don't," I said. "I wish I did. It would be easier than understanding him." Veronica testified next, voice shaking but firm. She described the manipulation, the love bombing, the fear that crept in like smoke. "I used to think abuse had a look," she said. "Bruises, broken bones, but it's a tone, a glance, a word that makes you question your own memory." When she finished, even the judge looked moved. The verdict came after 6 hours. Guilty on all counts. Domestic assault, unlawful imprisonment, violation of restraining orders, and attempted kidnapping. 12 years in prison, parole eligible in 8. Not enough, but something. When the judge read the sentence, Dad turned toward us and smiled again, crooked, brittle, defiant. It wasn't rage anymore, it was pity. The look of a man who still believed we couldn't live without him. But we already were. The months that followed were slow reconstruction. Mom started teaching yoga at the shelter, using her story to help women who didn't yet believe they could escape. She said it helped her breathe again. Theo finished high school early, applied to study psychology. "If I understand how people break," he told me, "maybe I can help put them back together." Veronica gave birth to a baby girl. She named her Hope. It was the first time any of us had cried for joy in years. I went back to school, studying social work. The same shelter that saved us hired me part-time. Nights there were long, but meaningful. Helping other women file papers, find apartments, rebuild what was stolen from them. Healing, I learned, wasn't a straight line. It was a spiral. You pass the same hurt over and over again, but each time you're farther from the center. For a while, we started to believe in normalcy, until the phone rang one afternoon. "This is Officer Hernandez," the voice said. "I handled your father's case. I thought you should know. He's been making calls from prison, not directly to you, through friends, asking about your mother, your brother, your stepmother." My stomach turned cold. "Is that allowed?" "Technically, yes. He's careful, but we're keeping watch. Just be vigilant." After I hung up, I sat in silence for a long time. The walls of my new apartment, sunlit, painted pale yellow, suddenly felt smaller. That night, I called Mom, Theo, and Veronica on speaker. "He's still trying to control us," Veronica whispered, "even from behind bars." "That's what abusers do," Mom said. "They find cracks and crawl through them." "What do we do?" Theo asked. "We live," I said, louder than before. Time moved. Seasons changed. The calls stopped. The letters stopped. The nightmares faded from nightly to monthly to rare. 3 years passed. Dad's appeals failed. His health declined. The world kept turning without him. We built something better. Mom's yoga studio expanded, offering free classes to survivors. Theo became a counselor, the kind who listened more than he talked. Veronica went back to school, working alongside me at the shelter. And Hope, bright, fearless Hope, turned 3, asking questions none of us were ready to answer yet. "Who's Grandpa?" she asked once. "Someone we used to know," Veronica said, "but you don't have to." The email arrived on a Thursday. From a law office I recognized, but hadn't thought about in years. Subject, final request from Daniel Kincaid. My hands went cold. I opened it. "Your father is dying. He has pancreatic cancer. He wishes to see you before he passes. I stared at the screen until the words blurred. When I finally called Mom, she said, "Don't, it's a trap." But I wasn't sure. "What if it's real?" I asked. "What if I need to see it, to see him one last time?" She sighed. "Then go. But don't expect healing. People don't change at the end. They just show you who they've always been." I looked at the photo of Hope taped to my fridge. Her little grin, her tiny fists. A life untouched by the fear that raised us. "Maybe that's what I need," I said, "to see him and finally understand he's not a monster, just a man." Theo offered to come with me. I didn't say no. We left for the prison the next morning. The prison hospital smelled like antiseptic and dying. A nurse led Theo and me down a narrow corridor where the walls were painted the same dull green as every waiting room of my childhood. We passed rooms filled with men in gray jumpsuits hooked to machines, people who'd once been terrifying and were now just fragile, fading bodies. When we reached his room, I hesitated in the doorway. Dad looked small. The man who once seemed impossible to escape was shrinking into the sheets, his skin paper thin, his eyes watery and unfocused. Tubes ran into his arms. A monitor beeped steadily beside him, indifferent. "You came," he said, his voice hoarse. "We came," I said. Theo hung back near the door, his face unreadable. "I'm dying," Dad continued. "Pancreatic cancer. The doctors say 6 weeks, maybe less." I nodded. "Okay." He blinked, confused. "That's it? Okay?" "What do you want me to say?" I asked. "You're dying. That's biology. It's not justice. It's not redemption. It's just an ending." He looked away, his hand twitching weakly on the blanket. "I wanted to see my family." "Your family?" I said. "You destroyed it." "I made mistakes," he said. "I was sick, alcoholism, PTSD. You don't understand what the job does to you." "I understand choices," I said, "and you made every wrong one." He flinched but didn't argue. "I loved you," he whispered. "Both of you." Theo stepped forward. "You pointed a gun at me," he said quietly. "You called that love?" Dad's eyes filled with tears. "I was desperate." "So were we," Theo said, "but we didn't hurt anyone." Dad reached out a shaking hand toward him. "I'm sorry, son." Theo didn't move. "No, you're not. You just don't want to die thinking we hate you." A long silence followed. Machines hummed. Footsteps echoed down the hall. I looked at the man in the bed, and for the first time I saw not power or fear, but the absence of both. He was just a man, pathetic, mortal. "You always said we'd regret leaving," I said. "You were wrong. We built lives you'll never touch. We're free." He closed his eyes. "That's cruel." "It's the truth." He turned his head toward the window. The light slanted across his face, catching the lines age had carved there. "I want forgiveness," he said, "before I go." I swallowed the lump in my throat. "Forgiveness is earned. You don't get it just because time ran out." "It's never too late," he whispered. "Yes," I said, "it is." For a moment I thought I'd feel something. Relief, rage, pity, but all I felt was tired. Theo touched my arm. "Let's go." I nodded. Dad's eyes followed us as we turned toward the door. "Rowan," he rasped, "don't let the past define you." I paused. "Then stop haunting it." We walked out, past the guards, past the gates, into sunlight that felt almost sharp enough to cut. Outside, I exhaled. It felt like putting down a weight I didn't know I was still carrying. "Do you feel better?" Theo asked. "Not better," I said, "just lighter." He died 4 weeks later. The lawyer called to inform us, his voice soft and professional, like we'd lost something worth mourning. He asked if we wanted to handle the funeral arrangements. "No," I said, "let the state handle it." "That seems harsh," he said. "That seems fair," I corrected. They buried him in a small cemetery on the edge of town. A few former colleagues attended, people who remembered the hero, not the monster. We didn't go. But each of us said goodbye in our own way. Mom lit a candle and let it burn for 24 hours. "For the man I thought I married," she said, "not the man he became." Theo wrote a letter, everything he'd never said, and burned it in the backyard. The ashes drifted into the wind, unburdened. Veronica planted a tree for Hope in the yard. "So something good can grow from all this," she said. "And me? I wrote the final chapter of my book, the one I'd been avoiding. My father died today. I didn't cry. I did not feel relief. I didn't feel anything except tired. Tired of explaining my survival, tired of defending it. But I'm not tired of living. I'm not tired of the family I've built or the person I've become despite him. He's gone. We're alive. That's not justice. It's continuity. And maybe that's enough." Months passed. Mom's yoga studio flourished. She called it Breathe. Theo finished his psychology degree, started working with at-risk teens. Veronica and I worked side by side at the shelter, helping women take their first terrified steps toward freedom. Hope turned 4. Smart, fierce, always singing. One evening, Mom called. "I have news," she said, laughing nervously. "I'm pregnant." I nearly dropped the phone. "You're what?" "I met someone," she said. "He's kind, patient, nothing like your father. I'm 47, but I'm doing it anyway." I smiled, tears slipping down my cheeks. "That's incredible." "I'm scared," she admitted. "That means you'll be a great mom," I said. Life didn't become perfect after that. Healing isn't a clean cut. It's scar tissue. But the scars reminded us we'd survived. One evening, as we all sat around Mom's table, Theo and his boyfriend Veronica with baby Hope, Mom with her new partner, I looked around at the mismatched group of people who had once been strangers tied together by pain. "I want to make a toast," Mom said, raising her glass. "To survival, to family, the kind we choose." We echoed it. "To family." Hope clinked her juice box against our glasses and giggled. For the first time in years, I realized the silence around us wasn't heavy anymore. It was peace. Dad used to say we'd never be happy without him. But we were. We were free. We were whole. And that was the best revenge of all.